music most people hear. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, Instagram, and our website. Let us share the noise with you.
Yo, this is John from Noise Dosage Media, and this episode is brought to you by Begrudgingly Benny. Interested in putting something horrific and grotesque on your next piece of merch? Benny is tucked away in the fiery depths of COVID quarantine, blasting the filthiest of old school death metal and drawing hideous creatures that he is waiting for you to adopt. Go over to Instagram and follow at BegrudginglyBenny and contact him if you would like some really weird original art for your band or label. Super professional, highly recommended. We are live.
All
Okay.
right.
So let me just start it off here. Let me just get straight to business. So Isaac, what are some things like you want to achieve within the next 2 years of Blood Incantation?
Interesting, man. Well, I think, as you know, and as everyone knows, many of the things that bands have been working on for a while is now completely on hold because of the coronavirus. And so this year was going to be a big touring year for us. We were supposed to be going to Europe and to Asia and Australia, probably do some States stuff as well. So, of course, that's all, out the window. So right. We've really been kind of changing our game plan in accordance with that. So it's kind of hard to say. Yesterday we just had the live stream.
Yes, dude.
From
good.
Yeah, thanks, man. We did that live stream from the rehearsal space. We actually recorded that about like 4 or 5 months ago. So it's just been a long time just getting it ready and waiting for the right time to put it out. But the response has been really good for that. So, we might look at doing some more stuff like that in the future. And we're also working on a new sort of direction, which, I can kind of hint at, but basically it will involve stuff that's closer to maybe like soundtrack music, ambient music.
Right. I was hearing a lot of sound. Like when I saw you guys with Cannibal Corpse, I didn't hear a lot of soundtracks from what I remember. So that's new from.
It's kind of new. We've had, synth and ambient parts on a lot of our records. So, we want to kind of delve into that a little more. It's also easier to just sit in our practice space and just kind of work on stuff like that now that we don't have any shows coming up and stuff like that. So, I would just keep an eye out for some different sorts of things that will not be of the ordinary Blood Incantation type of thing. So.
Oh shit!
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping to see that live stream go over to like VHS or something.
That's in the works. That's in the works.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, shoot off some questions while I share this all over platforms and stuff.
Well, I was going over your I want to say like this was one of the coolest things I saw in a record was the Stargate Research Society thing.
Yeah.
What are your influences outside of music, and how does that like lend to the way you guys create music?
Yeah. Of course, like anything, we're influenced by so many things that, are outside of music and outside of metal in general. Right. If you have the record, there is a list, and in the booklet you have there is a big list of books in that booklet there. Of course, there's tons of stuff. Of course, in the metaphysics and meditational Zen Buddhist stuff like Ram Dass, Be Here Now, stuff like Alan Watts, stuff like Joseph Campbell. Lots of like more transcendent stuff. We try to obviously, a lot of people kind of ask us about like the aliens and the conspiracy stuff a lot because that's all.
Hell yeah.
It's always like the easiest kind of thing to target in our lyrics and stuff. But even though we're really interested in kind of looking beyond just the basic context of human society, that also means, when you're questioning things, you should question everything. So that includes the history that we've been taught, that includes the belief systems and the culture and everything like that. And then that also includes your own mind. And so that's kind of like where we're kind of going and have been going for a long time is more focused on the inner space as opposed to outer space, even though they're both equally important and they're both intertwined. So it's not that they're really that different. So, the Stargate Research Society, that's actually our label and also organization that we as a band are a part of. And we will, and Stargate Research Society themselves will be creating more materials, reading materials, and also probably sound materials as well.
Nice. Yeah, you pretty much like answered all the questions I was going to ask you. Yeah, I was going to ask you all about everything that you're doing outside. Kind of like stuff like this is super interesting to me. I started getting into stuff like that when I started reading like Grant Morrison comic books and stuff. I don't know if you ever read him, but it's all about like transcendent meditation and.
Yeah. I'm really into a lot of those kind of off the beat comics, like Alan Moore and stuff like that too. Swamp Thing really touches. It's funny because when I first heard of Swamp Thing, I was like, what the hell is this? It sounds kind of stupid when you first hear of it, but when I read those Alan Moore comics, it really blew my mind, and it does get into like a deeper psychedelic, cosmic, consciousness type of thing. So
yeah, puts you on a road of questioning.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things about your band, like the music is amazing, but there's not really a lot of alien bands like that just stick, like, how do I put it? Like Rings of Saturn, but that's not death metal.
Yeah. Actually, Rings, it's funny because after we put out our EP, it has that Bruce Pennington art for Interdimensional Extinction that has like a Saturn-esque planet with a rings of like skulls and bones and stuff. And all these people were comparing us to Rings of Saturn and stuff. They're doing their own thing, and that's fine. Like, technically they're very proficient musicians. It's 100% not my type of thing at all.
Right.
But so it was just funny that, kind of comparing us to that. And then of course, I think there was a lot of that type of like technical deathcore that was like flirting with sci-fi stuff around that time. And so, yeah, we're definitely not part of that at all. But, in our view, like, there's been tons of bands doing like space or alien type of stuff for a long time. It's just not, I guess it's not been as prevalent in death metal. There's definitely like more cosmic-esque black metal bands. And there's like, of course, you go back and we're very influenced by a lot of the space rock of the 70s. So, Hawkwind and Pink Floyd and stuff like that, Gong and whatnot. So, for us, it was just kind of like a natural thing that was like really, when we started the band, Paul and I, that was really the first thing that we latched on together, was talking about space and sci-fi, but not in the context of like, I guess Star Wars or something, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I like Star Wars, like the original 3, but otherwise, it's not so much about that science fiction or science fantasy, I guess, is what a lot of that stuff is like. It's more about like kind of the deeper, kind of like, more like cerebral stuff. I mean, things come to mind like, a lot of John Carpenter films, like The Thing and stuff like that, where it's like science fiction, but it's also like, it's like horror, alien weirdness, but it's really also just talking about like this weird shape-shifting type of entities or whatever. So yeah, I think that's kind of like where we got into everything, and we wanted to kind of take the band in a different sort of direction than I think a lot of like other sci-fi bands. The one band that does come to mind is Nocturnus. And their first 2 albums were very, very pivotal for us as well. So
What did you think of their newest album that came out last year?
it's I actually really liked it. We actually got to see them in Czech Republic a little bit ago, a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah?
And they were playing stuff from that, and then they were playing stuff from the Key, and they even played like one Morbid Angel song, which was pretty sick. Yeah, and they like I think that they're doing a great job of. I mean, it's pretty much just Mike Brown and like a bunch of other guys, but it's really the closest that you could get to like another Nocturnus record at this point.
Right on. So here's a question off the bat here. You know, I saw that you guys do splits and stuff. What would be, if you had to pick like any band that you could do a split with, who would it be?
Oh man. Well, I mean, right now, like
right now,
that's happening. Well, we've talked. To be honest, we've only done the one split with Spectral Voice, which is basically 3/4 of the same band. Yeah. So, whereas like Spectral Voice has done a lot of different splits, so that's kind of like more of their sort of thing. Blood Incantation is not as much of a split band. I think that's just because we're very like specific about our presentation of the band. Not that Spectral Voice isn't. They're still very specific about the splits they do and who they do them with. But to find a band that would kind of fit into that with Blood Incantation would be fairly difficult. But we've actually been talking to, for a long time, we've been talking to Demolish a lot, and about possibly doing something with their newer project. But they have a new name, but I'm not at liberty to really say what that is. So yeah.
Well, you have sparked my interest. That'd be sick.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for like a couple of years, so who knows if that will happen, but here's to hoping.
Look forward to.
Yeah.
Brandon made me addicted to that band like a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean Nesbeth is one of like the craziest death metal records ever. So I think a lot of people say we sound like this band or this band. I mean, I will confirm that I have written riffs for Blood Incantation that are definitely inspired by Demolish, but we're not trying to be a Demolish like worship band or anything, but that big influence for us. So yeah.
Right on. So I saw you guys, Brandon, did you see them like live? I'm curious.
Yeah. When you guys did the Morbid Angel tour.
Yeah, because that's where I saw them too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Cool.
And yeah, that was incredible. Then I got the live cassette, which was super cool. And then, man, the backside of that cassette was just. I love you guys are like amazing at doing like almost more than just a band. Like you guys like have this like big image, and even with all your like side projects, it's just like you guys just know. You're really good with like that world building almost. Like it just you seem like bigger than a band. I mean, the live presence was super cool. So props.
Right.
I mean,
well, that's awesome to hear. I mean, ultimately, art should really take you out of your everyday life. So that's the idea for any of our bands, is that it is a world, it's a place, and you can go there. When you see us live, you can put on the record, there's a lot of ways to access that. So much in the same way that, a great novel can take you somewhere else or whatever. So that's definitely the idea. So that's good. That's awesome. Where did you guys see us? Just curious.
I saw, Cannibal Corpse is from like hometown of Buffalo, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm from.
Oh,
so
wow.
That show was like insane, because like seeing them, like overall that lineup was amazing.
Yeah.
But then the fact that it was Cannibal Corpse's hometown show, like the energy was just there, like from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And
Cannibal, they're an insanely good live band, I gotta say. Like honestly, like I never was like a huge Cannibal Corpse fan. Even when I was younger, I like, I heard like a lot of the classics at a young age, but I never saw them live until when we went on tour with them. Actually, it's funny because they would play a lot, and I just never got to see them. And then finally going on tour with them, I saw them like 20 something times in a row or whatever. And
right.
it's awesome. Like they kill it every night for sure. Yeah.
What would be like your fondest memory from that tour and then the Incantation tour? Because I talked to the Incantation guys and they're so nice.
Immolation.
Immolation shot. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's see. Fondest memories, man. I mean, it's crazy because it was kind of a whirlwind, and we were on tour with our really good friends in Necrot as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was. I would say probably the pinnacle show of that tour for us was New York City, because we played in Manhattan, like at the PlayStation Theater, the Sony PlayStation Theater, to like a couple thousand people or whatever, and it was crazy. Like, and we have a lot of friends in New York too, so there was just like a ton of people who we knew, and just like this huge, awesome show with this awesome stage, great sound, all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, just honestly, the whole tour itself was really something that we had been working towards our whole career. I mean, if you had asked us at any point like what our dream tour would be, it would 100% be Morbid Angel. Like that's our biggest influence for sure. We don't pretend that it's not, like, that's that's like our favorite band. So yeah, just the ability to go play, and it was the Steve Tucker Morbid Angel as well, because I've seen Morbid Angel before, with David Vincent and now also with Steve Tucker. But it was cool to see the Steve Tucker songs, especially the Formulas songs, which are some of my favorites. So that was really sick.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I missed the freaking Immolation tour, but
Yeah,
just talking to those guys, they're so nice. Like, I could just imagine. I feel like half the battle is just trying to like stay level on tour, like, because I haven't done it before. So
yeah. I mean, for us, we've been touring for a while with a bunch of different bands. At this point, it's just a matter of getting the job done and doing it right, and trying to give 100% every night, and that means like, not really partying or doing any of that stuff. So, trying to stay really focused on the work at hand. And Immolation are 100% those guys as well. So it was just so awesome to tour with like these guys who have been doing it for like basically since we've been alive, and they've been in the scene, and they've always kind of had their underground clout, they're like just this classic band that's they've always been sick, and they've never really wrecked it like, some other so, but it was really cool to, just have them there as just kind of this role model of like what, how to do it and how to do it for a long time and maintain the energy, because, as you get older, you just can't sleep on floors at punk houses anymore.
Especially being a drummer, man. You're doing the leg work.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a workout every night. So it's important to. It's funny too that you were at the Buffalo show. Like I think I was like passed out for like half of that show, like in the front room, like where all of the merch was. I was like sitting at our merch table, just like asleep, and I just put in earplugs, and I literally just closed my eyes and fell asleep for like an hour. And then they were like, "Oh, dude, we gotta go play." Oh, word.
Dude.
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah.
All right, man.
Well, that's kind of what tour is all about, is like finding the sleep when you can and finding the food when you can and all that stuff. But yeah, dude, like the Immolation guys are seriously some of the nicest people we've ever toured with. Like every member of that band is just super nice, super chill, and they've all been around the block, so they know what's going on.
Right. So here's a question I'm curious about your answer.
Yeah.
When it comes down to like the fundamentals of like death metal, what would you consider like something that's like essential? Like, what's a necessity?
Interesting. I mean, I guess it kind of depends, but I think it's more of like a feeling than like a specific trope or something. Because
right.
You can write death metal about anything pretty much, as long as it's, I guess, like dark enough. I mean, some bands try to kind of skirt that even too, so it's kind of hard to say. But and then, not all death metal bands have double bass drums. Not all death metal bands have blast beats. Not all death metal bands are down tuned. Like
Right.
death is not down tuned a lot of the time. So I think it's more of like a feeling than it is like an instrument or something. And it's kind of one of those things that you can really tell. I think it's when you've been listening to it enough, you can tell when it's maybe something that's, I don't know. I don't want to anything in particular, but I think it's that we talk a lot about how like the core influence is really like, that's kind of like been a thing in the metal scene for a long time. But I think that's kind of like the big difference is like that core influence versus not. That's kind of like where I kind of say like that's like the real death metal doesn't have that in my mind. But it's like it's not me makes them whatever.
Right.
But but I think if you're gonna play real death metal, then it has to come from the metal side. And I think that it's important to embrace the early influences, not just the stuff that's coming out now. And like, I see, bands being like, oh, like referencing, I don't know, like Tomb Mold or something as like an influence. And it's like, all right, that's cool. But like, go back further, man. Like go to like,
right.
Like you listen to like Judas Priest Painkiller and there's like basically death metal riffs on that record, but like, if the vocals just make it not death metal, you know what I mean? And same thing with like Candlemass. Like Candlemass is like almost death doom, but they just don't have death metal growls on it. So I guess maybe it's death metal growls. That's what requires it to be death metal. I don't know.
There you go. Pretty much.
Dude, I was watching some funny ass black metal documentary the other day. And it said something like, they can be black metal if they preach about Satan. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like,
I don't subscribe to that about black metal either. People say that Venom,
right. that was the documentary.
Obviously, they invented the term, and they are very pivotal in the creation of black metal. I'm never gonna debate that or whatever, but if you listen to it, the music is more akin to like thrash metal or something like that. But again, this gets down to like the whole thing about genretizing in general. I think that if a band is good, they'll really transcend that genre anyways. So, I mean, even though like, for example, like, I don't know, I like the band Opeth quite a lot. They were quite a pivotal band for me in high school for sure. And their earlier and middle stuff is definitely death metal. It just happens to also be like prog rock or whatever, or death metal or whatever. I don't think that makes it less death metal necessarily, but they definitely transcend whatever genre you're trying to put on them or anything like that. Same thing with like Pink Floyd or something like, you could call them a rock band, but that doesn't really scratch the surface, So I think that's kind of the issue with genres in general. So
right.
It all seems so like.
Go ahead. You're good. No,
I was just gonna say, just all seems so. Aside from like the old school death metal revival, it just seems so. Everything's like seems like this big like murky swamp of like so many different genres being put together, and I think that's like huge. That's why like I'm so into black and death metal, because it sounds. I mean, it's kind of been around for a little bit, but I feel like there's so many genres that are kind of going in there, and I think like like bands like Portal or Suffering Hour are like good examples of you don't really need any kind of they have those like pivotal old school influences, but for the most part it just sounds like something so weird and exotic and new. It's like really pushing the genre forward a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all of the death metal bands that I really like don't sound very similar to each other, to be honest. I mean, like Gorguts is super different from Death, and it's super different from Morbid Angel, and and then even like like newer bands like Ulcerate and stuff, like just doing new and different with the genre. So yeah, I think it's just one of those issues. People will always say like, oh, like this isn't true black metal or this isn't true death metal or whatever. But, I think that's it. There's also that what you were saying, like about this like old school death metal revival just kind of watering down whatever death metal is in a way. I don't know, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Right. It's skipping over like the monumental bands, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we're the thing about our band is that we like old bands, and we also like really old bands like Gong and Camel and Yes and King Crimson and stuff like that. So like eventually, I honestly don't even know if we would call ourselves death metal. We're just like a metal band that happens to do growls and crazy stuff. So I don't know.
Right. So me and Brandon were talking the other day, right? And we want to know how you guys acquired the gong.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good so we took we often kind of do like band field trips, as we like to call them, where we'll all go do something together that is band related, but is maybe not music related, right? So just recently in Denver, they had the Gem, Fossil, and Rock show, which is basically like a flea market for like fossils and crystals and all kinds of weird stuff. It was like this big complex here in Denver. And so we just went as a band, and we were kind of we were looking for some stuff for the practice space, just to kind of influence the vibes as it were. But we found this whole booth that was actually it's the most hippie stuff you could ever hear of, but it's called sound healing. And it's
the singing bowl.
Yeah, so singing bowls, and they had those like hand pans that you can like all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
They had a bunch of gongs, and we actually used a gong on the last record that I rented through my brother, because my brother works as like a music teacher at a school here in Aurora, and he had a gong. So I was like, oh, can I just borrow that for this record? We used it, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. All of us were like, we just need one, and
yeah,
they're fairly expensive. So when we
I can just imagine shipping, like.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And the ones they sell at Guitar Center are just, that's crap.
Oh,
We're not trying to do that. So fast forward, we're at the Gem show, and we happened upon this booth that was just, a ton of gongs, a ton of all this other stuff. And we asked the lady who was running the booth, we're like, what is the biggest gong that you have? She's like, well, one that's not this other one over here, because they had one that was like all etched with mandalas and like crazy Sanskrit and stuff, and they were saying like, oh well, that's the biggest one, but that's $8,000. And we were like, okay, cool, we can't, not that, but maybe someday for sure. And then she was like, well, this is the other biggest one, and we were able to haggle with her, and we took it home. So we now have our own Blood Incantation gong. I
think the only band I know that is used like a gong that I've seen in person is Van Halen. Like I saw it in like a museum.
Next Van Halen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, for us, like again, I've said it multiple times, I think, already in this interview, but Pink Floyd is a huge influence, and the Live at Pompeii, for example, that's like we're trying to get there. That's our next logical step. So.
What's your opinion on Animals? That's my favorite record by them.
Oh man, I mean, honestly, that's my go-to for when I'm just, if I just want to put on a Pink Floyd record just to jam on. That's something that's, it's just got riffs, and it's got a great just mood the whole time.
Right.
But they're one of those bands. It's really hard to pick a favorite, because they're all so different and so great. I just watched this documentary on the making of Dark Side of the Moon, which is like, obviously it's like one of the most overhyped records of all time. Everyone has like a poster of it in their dorm room or whatever, but it's like, it's an important pivotal record, it changed.
Right. I mean,
but
what is your opinion on The Wall?
Oh, interesting. I'm not as big of a fan of that one. That's kind of
Me
where
neither. Me neither. That's like I can't say it's my least favorite, but it's definitely not like the best record they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's just very Roger Waters, kind of like preaching from his pedestal type of thing, which is fun. The movie's cool, especially when you're experimenting with illicit substances as a teenager. But yeah, no. But like Piper at the Gates of Dawn, the first record with Syd Barrett, like that's an incredible record. Metal, of course, is an incredible record. Obscured by Clouds, Adam Heartmother. I mean, they're just all so good. Wish You Were Here is great too. I mean, if you kind of take away the one radio single, which is the Wish You Were Here song, but like Shine On You Crazy Diamond is like insane. It's so good. But yeah.
Oh, well, I'm trying to think of other classics that people love. I mean, like as a drummer, what about Rush, man? Like,
yeah, I mean, you know what? I like Rush a lot. It's kind of funny that you say that as a drummer type of thing, because as I was growing up, playing drums, people would always be like, "Dude, Neil Peart, right? Neil Peart."
Yeah, that's what I mean. Dude, that's what I mean.
It's kind of the same as like with Danny Carey from Tool or like John Bonham. It's like people they just assume that you love them, and it's like they're all great drummers. Like I'm not saying that they're not, but those aren't the guys that I'm like all about.
Right.
I like Rush for sure, but they're actually not in my like top list of prog bands. If you're talking about like drummers and stuff, like Bill Bruford from Yes and King Crimson, he's a huge influence. So a lot of those guys. And then for newer people, he now plays in King Crimson, but Gavin Harrison, who plays with King Crimson now, but used to be in Porcupine Tree and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, but still, I mean, of course, yeah, Rush is cool.
I mean, like that's always the topic when people say drums, they're like, "Oh man, freaking Rush!" But like, I don't know, like.
Yeah,
in death metal, what do you look up to?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many great players. I mean, now and also back in the day. But definitely, I mean, Pete Sandoval was a big influence for double kick stuff. And actually, it's kind of interesting because I come from more of a black metal background, so
there we go.
When I was learning to play drums, I was more interested in that stuff. So I was really influenced by like Frost from like Satyricon and 1349. Like the first couple 1349 records were like huge. I was like, I'd never heard someone play drums like that before. And Martin Lopez from Opeth was a huge influence as well. So those were kind of like the first people when I was first playing drums that I was like, God, I gotta play like that. But yeah, over time, there's a lot of people I'm like trying to rack my brain. I mean, Thomas Hake from Meshuggah. I don't know. There's just so many people across the board. So,
all right. So you talked about black metal.
Yeah.
Me and Brandon are big fans. What is like a good release that came out this year that you really like?
Oh man,
I don't even know how to pronounce that one. Is it Achilles?
Achilles.
Have you heard of that band?
Yeah, I actually know a couple of the people that are in it. I haven't listened to it yet. Maybe I should give it a shot. I haven't listened to it, but
I think it's called The Dreaming Eye. That is like my favorite black metal album to date.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not super up to date about what's kind of currently coming out. Honestly, I haven't really listened to too many like releases that have just come out. I'm trying to think of like the last thing that I bought that was like a new record. But as far as like a band that's like a death metal band that just came out with something, that band Faceless Burial just came out with a record called Speciation. That's really good. Of course, Necrot just put out a record.
Oh, dude. So good.
Those guys are homies, good friends. So
Luca's a really cool guy to talk to, man.
Yeah,
super
he's
nice.
yeah, Luca, Chad, Sonny. They're all three of them good guys. Good guys. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a black metal band right now. I mean, yeah, honestly, I don't really know. I listen to. I sound like an old fart saying this, but I really just listen to stuff that's like from like the 90s, pretty much. And like early 2000s, for sure as well. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, kids these days, right?
Yeah, Paysage de Hiver, the Swiss black metal band, he just released Involved, which is like a huge, crazy. I just got that box set. He just released that, so I think that's like the newest thing I got. But yeah,
are you shuffling through your cassettes over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I was just gonna bring up Swevin if you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was a fan of Morbus Kron, their other band.
Yeah.
I actually haven't listened to Swevin yet. I need to. Well, I've listened to the album, but not their new band.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, it's like it's a little bit lighter, and so it's like Diet Morbus Kron, but I guess Diet would be the worst. I mean, a bad thing to say, but it's Morbus Kron just kind of expanding themselves and like just not subjugating themselves to death metal or black metal or whatever they want to be.
Yeah, they seem to be going in that direction on the album Swevin. I could tell that the main guy, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but I know that he was really like into 70s prog and like kind of had like a psychedelic kind of post rock vibe.
Yeah, this new one's like super psychedelic, really good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'll have to check that out for sure. Another band that you guys need to check out. I'm gonna put this shameless.
I gotta get a notepad.
Is a band called Slam 420. You gotta check that out.
Slam 420.
Yeah, they're a new band. Gotta check it out.
What?
Yeah, it's just Hydro Slam. You just gotta check that out.
Are they on YouTube?
I think so. Yeah.
Let me guess. They're like a slamming deathcore band.
Not deathcore. It's just slam death metal in the most stupid way possible.
How's and I might be saying this wrong, but like Katanan?
Oh yeah, like Katanan. Yeah, that's
how's that going?
That's another project that I've been in for a while. So yeah, that's a couple of the guys in Wayfarer and myself, and then we have a couple other members as well. And so we put out that demo earlier this year. It's been, the whole point of it was really just to showcase what the band was about and what it sounded like. We had actually written one of those songs back in like myself and Jamie, the guitarist. We had written that song with the other guitarist, Eric, back in like 2010 or something like that. So we've been sitting on that stuff for a long time and finally, got it recorded and got that demo done. So now we're like kind of looking towards, maybe a full length or something to work with maybe a label or something. But the idea is because you were talking like about Portal and stuff, and we're also really into a lot of those like more dissonant bands, like especially like later era Abigor. I love all Abigor, but their later stuff and stuff like Dodheimsgard and Thorns and like Ulcerate and Deathspell Omega and stuff like that. But we wanted to stay away from that kind of like, because there's like a whole bunch of bands that are just that genre. You know what I mean? Swirly sounding, dissonant Black Death or whatever. So we're kind of trying to stay away from that and adding in this like industrial element. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
Hell yeah. All right, we're gonna give a shout out to these 16 people that are watching. Ask some questions. Come on, shoot some questions at them. This is your time. Let's see here. Gouda says, when's the next beefiest hit coming out?
The next beefiest?
Yes, yeah. I don't know what the hell that means, but
give us some beef.
It'll be some mock soy beef for you. I can't really can't really speak on that, but I can tell you
It's all right. It's all right.
that at least in the next 6 months, there may be some sort of thing to look out for. But
Okay.
I can't really say exactly what.
All right.
Ambient. Come on, do it.
Ray, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Anyway, instead of the biggest gong, what is the biggest bong you have?
Oh, I am the wrong person to ask that.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm actually the only member of Blood Incantation that doesn't really smoke weed. So
I'm the same way, man.
yeah, I used to smoke weed. I used to, but yeah, actually, funny thing is that I think the bongs are not used as much as the dabs are used.
Oh no.
In the band. So I stay far away from that though, personally. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Oh, now we're getting questions here. Chris said, yo man, the live video was seriously rad yesterday. And I agree, man. That was super
Really good.
I think how you did like the full album just topped it off. Like
yeah. Yeah, we were kind of it kind of came out of this online fest that they were kind of asking us to do some live footage for in the practice space, and we couldn't get it done in time because we're just musicians. We're not
right.
Sometimes, so we kind of run on our own schedule. So we weren't able to get it done, and so we were talking to Century Media about what to do alternatively, and we liked the idea of just playing the whole record, especially because we just put this album out last fall, and we've only played 3 shows since it came out. So
yeah, right.
We wanted people to be able to get that experience. I mean, obviously, it's not the same, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we wanted to play the whole record and have people see it, how we've been playing it, because we played 2 shows in New York in February, right before the coronavirus hit, 2 sold-out shows, and those were great. We played the Hidden History all the way through the first night and Starspawn all the way through the first night, and then the second night we did Hidden History and Interdimensional, and people were really stoked on that, and so we kind of wanted to bring that to a video format, just because that's how things are now. And here we are on, Zoom chats and everything. So
now I noticed you had like 4 angles. Did you have like professionals there, or was that?
So we, yes, professionals for sure.
Well, yeah. No, I'm curious because
I mean, we used our really good friends. So my good friend Aaron, and he actually recorded all of it. And the audio, and so he mixed and mastered the audio for it. And then my good friend Jamie, who's in Lycodonon and Wayfarer, he did all of the video footage. And the way that kind of came about was that back when we were in bands, like right out of high school, he would always be the guy with the camcorder at the party and filming people being really stupid and whatever. So he was always the guy that just had camcorders just lying around and just filming. Right. And so, finally, when we were talking about doing this, I was like, oh, I could probably ask him. And so, yeah, he had a couple cameras and just set them up. And I think one of the cameras is just his phone. Like he's
right. Because I was like, I wonder if they use like GoPros or something. Because
yeah, no, it wasn't that nice. It wasn't that nice. It was just like a couple camcorders in his phone. So
there it is.
That VHS effect just makes it all like otherworldly. And
yeah, well, and it was also extremely foggy. We also know nothing about actual like professional lighting. So it was
just, throw the ball. The balls actually made the video stand out.
They're salt lamps actually, and
salt lamps.
Yeah, got to get those good vibrations, man. Yeah, we got salt lamps, and I think there was like a disco ball behind me, and a bunch of fog, and that was I think it does kind of add to a cool quality for the video, and I'm stoked that people are into it. We weren't really sure like how it was going to go, so people seem to be stoked about it, and there aren't that many, I guess, like more produced live streams that happen, and we really wanted to stay away from that, like each member's in a different room doing it along.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because like that's not really our style, and also like we're still we're basically quarantined together. We're just practicing all the time, so that's kind of like where
right.
from anyways. So
The one thing I noticed about that video was the snare. It sounded so good, man. Like it had like this room effect. I don't know. Like
yeah, that was all Aaron. He just threw a bunch of reverb on the drum.
holy shit, man. It's so good.
Do that more. I mean, also the space that we recorded it in is actually Wayfarer and Lycodonon and a couple other bands practice space. And so we utilize that space because it's very large and it has a really high ceiling, so it gets that big like roomy sound. And Aaron has like a kind of a studio set up there, so we were able to get like a pretty good quality sound recording.
Right. All right. Let's see what else.
If it's on VHS,
yeah, it don't matter.
Look out for it,
Buying that shit.
Why do I gotta read all this? Let me see. Do you think riffs or frosty synths are more important for a good frosty black metal album?
Oh man. A good frosty black metal album. Okay. I mean, you gotta have the riffs first. There can be keyboards, but I think a lot of bands that have keyboards forget to play guitar as well.
Yeah, they just fucking crank up the synths.
And obviously, I'm wearing a shirt of a band that uses both, so that's my opinion. Now, I love keyboards in pretty much all music, but definitely black metal. Like especially in the mid 90s, like 94 to 97, that was like prime keyboard. Yeah.
All right. What is this band called? Fortress or something like that? I can't even say it. Fortress. Have you heard of them?
Is it Fortress or I don't know. I don't think I have the comments on my thing, so I can't.
Yeah, top right is a comments thing.
Oh, I see it. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Fortress or something.
Yeah, that's Fortress. Yeah. I called it with your mispronunciation, which is
there you go.
Great. Yeah, they're a good band. I believe they're from Quebec. They're good stuff. They're like that kind of like melodic, but naturalistic, historical sounding black metal.
I'll have to take notes on that. And what was the 421? Slam 420?
Yeah, Slam 420. Gotta check it out.
Are they on Instagram? What's
they're on Bandcamp. They're on Bandcamp. Check it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The last question here is any plans for shows? I mean, obviously this isn't valid right now, but for Germany.
I mean, yeah, that's a hard one. Just because, obviously, yeah, we're trying to play shows whenever we can. I mean, it's a tough time right now to make any sort of promises or anything, but as soon as we're able to travel, Blood Incantation is going to be on tour. That's where we live basically, so that's like our job. So yeah, we're gonna go everywhere. That was our intention this year. So fingers crossed that it's gonna be hopefully next year at some point. But I mean, us like anybody else, we're not holding our breath on that. So it'll just be a matter of time to see how things get back to some sense of normalcy. But that's just how things are. So, but yes, I think it's duck. Yeah, duck.
Duck.
To a German duck. Yes, we will try to get to Germany and other places as well.
And you better get him some beer. There it is. You better come to Rochester, man. Come on. Rochester, New York. Buffalo, you came there, but it's an hour it's an hour to the right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if there's a good deal with a good show with whatever, a good venue, we're not beholden to any specific routing. So, it's just a matter of who hits up our booking agents. So,
all right. Well, I'm going to tell Oz from Rochester to hit you up when
there you go, man.
everything goes.
For sure.
Brennan, you got anything?
No.
Come on.
Yes. I got plenty of answers. I got more than my fair share of knowledge from you, and I got a ton of bands. Slam 420 being probably the top of the list because of the name. So,
it should be, man, it's like their whole band is just about weed and aliens and smoking weed. And
Duck's gonna check it out,
dude. Duck is for sure.
And Vault saying play with Undeath, and I agree with the two weird boys in metal, Undeath and Blood Incantation.
Yeah. There you go. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Chris, you're right, man. You really are. All right. Well, I'll just thank you for doing this. I appreciate your time and stuff. And
yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It was very laid back and easy interview. So I appreciate that. And
right on.
Thank you for not asking all of the kind of repeated questions.
Thank you.
Nice.
I appreciate.
We did our best.
Now I appreciate the fact that you said that to me, because I've never had somebody, like, I ask people, how are my questions, and they're never like, I don't know.
I always tell them they suck so fucking bad.
Yeah.
You gotta stop asking these lame questions, man. No.
I gotta tell you, man, I don't ever want to answer what our band name means again, to be honest. I mean, I get it if I'm in maybe in Mongolia and someone's asking me what our band name means, like that's chill. But we've been a band for a long time, and I've been asked that question so many times. So I'm glad that it was
all right. So the last question is, give me some things other than the name that you hate on interviews. Like what?
I mean, it's just anything that's Googleable, just don't ask.
Right.
That's just the main thing with interviews. Is like, if I'm reading an interview with a band that I like, I don't need you to like explain or like ask like, oh, so like, where are you guys from? And like, like, you can read that anywhere. Like, that's just you.
So how is the show tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, man, but like, that's not new information. So.
What's your favorite song on the last album?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So what was the best part of the record process,
Yeah. It's, here and there it's fine. But like I said, if it's like a totally new audience, like in a different country or something, it's different. But when it's, it's the same people in America or wherever.
Right.
Like,
right.
But, that's how journalism is, people.
There we go.
Copying other stuff.
All right. Well, I'm going to plug the next one I'm going to do here. I'm going to be talking to the boys in Havoc in a couple days. So,
well, I know those guys. So.
Yeah. To the people that are watching or not watching that might watch it later, be on the lookout for that. But hell yeah. Brandon,
sick. Thanks
for chilling. Isaac, thanks for chilling. We're going to end it. I appreciate your time and grind on.
Thanks, cool. Man. Take it easy.
All right, have a good one.
All right.